Every lie has an expiration date. Every secret has a weakness. And every hidden truth eventually finds a way into the light. For years, Dorian Gray had protected his secret. The portrait remained hidden. The attic remained locked. The truth remained buried. But on a cold autumn evening, everything began to change. Basil Hallward had returned. The artist, the friend, the man who once believed Dorian Gray was the most beautiful soul he had ever known. For years, he had heard rumors, dark rumors, stories whispered behind closed doors, stories involving scandal, manipulation, broken lives, and somehow, Dorian's name always appeared nearby. Basil refused to believe them at first. How could he? The Dorian he remembered had been kind, innocent, pure. Yet the rumors continued growing, and eventually, even friendship could no longer silence doubt. That evening, Basil visited Dorian's mansion. The atmosphere felt strange, cold, unwelcoming, as though the house itself carried a burden. When Dorian greeted him, Basil immediately noticed something unsettling. Not a change, the absence of one. Years had passed, yet Dorian looked exactly the same face, the same eyes, the same youth, the same impossible beauty. And for a moment, Basil felt something he could not explain: fear. They sat together near the fireplace, speaking politely at first. Old memories, old friends, old times. But eventually, the conversation shifted toward the rumors, toward the whispers, toward the truth. Dorian, Basil said quietly, "I need to ask you something." Dorian remained silent. The artist continued, "I hear terrible things about you. Everywhere I go, people speak your name with suspicion. Some even speak it with fear." The room grew silent. Only the fire crackled. Only the rain answered. Basil leaned forward. "I don't want to believe them, but I need you to tell me the truth." Dorian's expression darkened, not because the rumors hurt him, but because Basil still cared, still believed redemption was possible. And somewhere deep inside, that kindness irritated him, because kindness reminds guilty people of what they have lost. Basil continued, "You have influence over people, and wherever you go, something seems to break. What has happened to you?" For a moment, Dorian almost laughed. How could he explain? How could anyone explain a portrait that aged instead of its owner? A soul trapped inside paint and canvas. A lifetime of corruption hidden behind eternal beauty. Then Basil said something unexpected, something that pierced deeper than accusation. "Dorian, I once admired you more than anyone, and now I'm afraid for you." Those words lingered in the room. Afraid for you, not angry, not hateful, afraid. Because Basil still saw a human being beneath the rumors, still saw someone worth saving. For a brief moment, Dorian felt shame, real shame, the kind he had avoided for years, the kind no pleasure could erase, the kind no luxury could distract from. And suddenly, he made a decision, a reckless decision, a dangerous decision, perhaps the worst decision of his life. "You want the truth?" Dorian asked. Basil nodded. "Then come with me." The artist looked confused, but followed. Together, they climbed the staircase, past silent hallways, past forgotten rooms, toward the attic, toward the place where Dorian's secret slept. The higher they climbed, the colder the air became. The silence felt heavier, the shadows deeper, and Basil felt a growing sense of dread, a feeling he could not explain. Finally, they reached the door, the locked door. The forbidden door. Dorian removed the key. His hand trembled slightly, not from fear, from anticipation, because after years of hiding, the truth was finally about to be seen. The door opened, slowly, with a long creak. Darkness waited inside. Dust floated through candlelight. The room felt abandoned, forgotten, like a tomb. At the far end stood the portrait, covered by a heavy cloth, silent, waiting. Basil frowned. "What is this?" Dorian stared at the covered painting and whispered, "My soul." The artist laughed nervously, certain it was a joke, certain none of this could be serious. Then Dorian stepped forward, grasped the cloth, and pulled. For a moment, nobody moved, nobody breathed, nobody spoke. Basil stared, frozen, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. The face inside the portrait looked monstrous, cruel, corrupted, twisted beyond recognition. The beauty was gone, the innocence destroyed, the soul exposed. Yet somehow, beneath the horror, he still recognized Dorian. The realization shattered him, because artists know their own work. And Basil knew this was the portrait he had painted years ago. Impossible, yet undeniably real. "No," he whispered. "No, this cannot be real." But it was. Every sin, every lie, every act of cruelty, every selfish choice, the portrait had recorded them all. Perfectly, mercilessly. Tears filled Basil's eyes, not because he feared the painting, because he understood what it meant. The portrait wasn't cursed. Dorian was. And standing before that horrific image, Basil finally understood the tragedy. The beautiful young man he once admired had destroyed himself. "Dorian," Basil whispered, "we can still save you. Repent, pray, ask forgiveness. It isn't too late." But Dorian no longer wanted forgiveness, because forgiveness requires admitting guilt. And guilt was something he had spent years escaping. The words irritated him. The concern irritated him. The truth irritated him. And for the first time, a dark thought entered his mind. A thought so terrible, he immediately tried pushing it away. But some thoughts, once born, never truly die. The truth had finally been revealed. The secret had finally been seen. And the one person who still believed Dorian could be saved now understood the full horror of what he had become. But revelations have consequences. And in the next chapter, Dorian Gray will make a choice from which there is no return, a choice that transforms tragedy into horror. Because sometimes, the greatest threat to a secret is the person who knows it. You have been listening to The Picture of Dorian Gray, Chapter 7, The Truth Behind the Portrait. Join us for Chapter 8. Because the darkness inside Dorian Gray is no longer hiding. And once darkness is revealed, it rarely leaves without demanding a price. Until next time, good night.